Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I am delighted to have back with us today Bryan Fischer. I just really appreciate what this man does and the work that he does. He's the Director of Issue Analysis for the American Family Association, and he provides information on a wide range of public policy topics. He has his own host of Focal Point radio program on the American Family Radio Network, and we're here today to talk about the Veterans Affairs and what happened during the Christmas season. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, he is a 49er fan. And
how can you tell, Perry? How can you tell?
And I have to tell you, Bryan, I think you and I are the only two in the building.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, Perry, the last time I was on, it was right after Stanford had just thumped Oregon, and I am a Stanford alum, so I was wearing some kind of a Stanford lanyard or something like that. So I had a little bit of fun. You know, I was going to take the Stanford lanyard off before I went on the program. I said, no, wait a minute, I'm talking to somebody from Oregon. I need to keep it on.
Yeah.
But anyway, you and me, Perry, we're going for the Niners on Sunday, and I'm rooting for the Saints on Saturday. I want the Saints to beat the Seahawks up there in Seattle, because if the Niners win on Sunday against Carolina and the Saints win, then the Niners would get the Saints at home for the NFC Championship. So I'm pulling big time for the Saints.
Where in the world did you find that sweatshirt? I've never seen one that big and bold before.
That's I believe in supporting my teams, but I try to do it in a way that's subtle and not real. This was kind of the most muted expression of loyalty I could find.
Well, good. I love it. Nice to see you, friend. Happy New Year. I heard bits and pieces about the VA being mistreated during Christmas time, but I had no idea it was at this level. Did you?
Well, no, it surprised me. As we began to poke into this and research it, we discovered that there's just an alarming level of anti-Christian bigotry and censorship and repression in the hospitals that are run by the Veterans Administration. These are the hospitals that take care of veterans that have bled and lost limbs, and many of whom have died in the service of this country to protect our liberties, to protect our freedoms. I mean, they took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States when they enlisted, and many of them paid the ultimate price, and a number of them are in hospitals now because of wounds that they experienced in the interest of liberty, willing to risk their lives to protect our freedoms. And the very first liberty that the founders protected in the First Amendment in the Constitution was the free exercise of religion. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that they protected in our Constitution, and that's what these veterans were out there to defend and prepared again to pay the ultimate price in order to do it. So it's just reprehensible that the Veterans Administration would be suppressing the free exercise of religion, which these men were willing to bleed and die to protect.
Well, so where did this edict come from?
Well, we really don't know, but it's interesting, Perry, that there is a 2011 federal consent decree that specifically prohibits the Veterans Administration from suppressing Christian speech. So when they did this, they were actually violating federal law. They were violating a federal consent decree. And I don't know, Perry, if you'd want me to take a minute and just run through a couple of the examples of this.
Please, yeah.
Your listeners have an idea of exactly how egregious the offenses are that we're talking about.
Please.
And this goes from different states, different parts of the country, so it's systemic. It's not just isolated to one hospital or one region. In Augusta, Georgia, there were some high school carolers that showed up at the VA hospital there to sing Christmas carols to the veterans, and the hospital said, no, you can only sing pre-approved government Christmas songs that the government has pre-approved. You can't sing any Christmas carols that mention the name of Christ. Well, the First Amendment, Perry, says that the one thing that the federal government cannot do, it is prohibited from doing, is prohibiting the free exercise of religion. The central government cannot do that. The Veterans Administration, they're a part of the federal government, the central government, so they're violating the free exercise of religion clause in the First Amendment. So these Christmas carolers, these high school Christmas carolers, and I commend them for doing this, they said, look, we're not going to sing. If you're going to censor and tell us the kind of songs, the government pre-approved songs that we can sing, we're not even going to bother. Now, in Iowa City, Iowa, the American Legion sent some volunteers to a VA hospital to hand out gifts to veterans, and the gifts were wrapped in paper that had the word Merry Christmas on it. And the Veterans Administration said, no, you can't come in here if the gifts that you want to give to these veterans have Merry Christmas on it. There was in Montgomery, Alabama, and this was a particularly offensive case because there was a woman by the name of Jordan McClendon. She's 20 years old. Her grandfather was in this VA hospital. She prepared 100 gifts that she wrapped herself in order to cheer up the veterans that were in there with her grandfather. And again, because these gift bags had the word Merry Christmas on it, she was not allowed to distribute those goodie bags inside the Veterans Hospital. This was on Christmas Eve. So, you know, that is really particularly offensive. And then in Dallas, Texas, high school children, local school children, not high school children, but children at a local school had prepared handwritten Christmas cards. I mean, they had taken the time to handwrite these Christmas cards in order to cheer up these veterans. And some of these Christmas cards, well, probably all of them, contained phrases like Merry Christmas or God bless you. And the Veterans Hospital there refused to accept delivery of these handwritten Christmas cards that were designed to cheer up these veterans because they included the words Merry Christmas and God bless you. And, you know, Trey, one other thing that I want to mention as we go forward here is, you know, Christmas is a federal holiday.
Right.
This is a federal holiday approved by the Congress of the United States, signed into law in 1872. It's a federal holiday as much as the 4th of July is, or Labor Day, or Memorial Day, or President's Day, or Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is a federal holiday. And so in reality, these federal officials were forbidding these American citizens from celebrating one of our official holidays just because it centered around the birth of Christ. So all of this is just egregious and offensive. Almost, it's hard to calibrate how offensive this is.
Stunning, absolutely stunning, Bryan. It tells me also that people had to be trained and told what to do when this happened. So somewhere along the line, these people were prepared to push back when these offers of Christmas expressions were being given. I mean, this has to come down from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, you would think.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And, you know, and the confirmation of that, Perry, is the fact that, you know, you're talking about Augusta, Georgia, Iowa City, Iowa, Montgomery, Alabama, Dallas, Texas, all over the fruited plain. These incidents are happening. So it's not isolated. It's got to be, you know, coming from the top. And, you know, there is a saying that a fish rots first from the head.
Right.
And that's why when we sent an action alert out, American Family Association, we sent an action alert out to all of the members of our electronic network, and we encourage them to send a letter to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. His name is Eric Shinseki. He's a former general in the military. And this has to somehow be coming from his office, at least with his approval or with his permission, if not at his direction.
All right. Now, I'm not looking for conspiracy here, but on the other hand, this has to come out of the White House, too. It would seem to me it fits what we see coming out of the White House, where there is just seemingly no protection of the Christian religion whatsoever.
Well, and I think you're right about that. We've seen an unparalleled, unprecedented level of hostility toward the Christian faith coming out of this administration. This year, for instance, their Christmas card did not even have the word Christmas in it. It had a picture of the White House and a picture of their dogs, or a dog, or something like that, the White House pet dog. There was no mention of Christ, no mention even of the word Christmas. I think it used, you know, holiday greetings or, you know, whatever. And we've seen, particularly in the military in general, that's where this is a real problem. You're seeing a real repression of Christian speech, Christian expression, religious liberty in the United States military, all the way from chaplains being forbidden to read a letter from a Catholic bishop dealing with the issue of same-sex marriage. You got chaplains being told, look, if you can't get on board with the gay agenda, you need to find another career. You know, so you have this system-wide, really, in the United States military. And, of course, Veterans Administration is a part of that whole network. And I agree with you, Perry. I think this antipathy toward Christianity and Christian values is coming from the Oval Office. That's where it's traced to. got a president that's very friendly toward the Islamic faith, can't stop saying wonderful things about the Islamic faith, but at the same time is out there repressing expressions of Christian faith.
All right, let me take a break here, Brian. We'll come back. I want to know, can we push back? And are veterans pushing back? And our special guest today is Bryan Fischer, Director of Issues Analysis there for American Family Association. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is Joe Montana from from the American Family Association, better disguised as Bryan Fischer. He's the Director of Issues Analysis for AFA, and we're talking about a very serious topic, and one that, quite frankly, stunning and just turns your gut when you hear it, and that is that how the veterans in these hospitals and other veterans facilities around the country literally were denied their Christmas in so many ways. Brian, let me ask you this. Was there any pushback from the veterans themselves when this stuff occurs?
Well, yeah, and veterans' families were horrified to learn of this. I think they registered their complaints. We certainly, the action alert that we sent out gave our folks, a lot of whom are veterans. You know, we have a lot of veterans and families of veterans in our electronic network at the American Family Association. They're some of our most faithful and loyal supporters. And I know that they weighed in on this. They sent letters to General Shinseki. It's not too late, actually. If folks want to go to our website, afa.net, and go to the Action Alert button, I think this is about the third Action Alert down. There's an opportunity still for them to weigh in and let the head of the Veterans Administration, General Shinseki, know that this is not acceptable to the American people, and particularly to veterans and to the families of veterans. And Perry, I want to follow up on that, but I want to make a couple of other observations first. You know, as we mentioned in the first segment, this is a federal holiday, right, just like the 4th of July, just like the President's Day. And what the Veterans Administration has done here is it's no different than saying to American citizens in the VA hospital, yeah, you can celebrate the President's birthday, but we don't want anybody to mention the name of George Washington or mention the name of Abraham Lincoln, and we don't want any of their pictures on display anywhere in connection with their birthdays. Or to celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And to tell citizens you cannot mention his name during this celebration, you cannot have pictures of him anywhere in the celebration. Or to tell these veterans, you can celebrate the 4th of July, it's a federal holiday, but you cannot have any American flags anywhere in your celebration. You cannot sing any patriotic songs. I mean, it's just that absurd. It's that ludicrous. You know, and if you think about it, you know, I believe you can make a case that Christmas is actually in our Constitution, because if you look at the dating of the Constitution, it is dated in the year of our Lord, 1787. And not only in the year of our Lord, 1787, but in the year of the independence of the United States, the 12th. In other words, they dated the Constitution in 1787 from two dates. There were two dates that the Founding Fathers considered to be the most important dates in the history of the United States of America. The first was the birth date of Jesus Christ, the very first Christmas, and the second was the birth date of the United States of America. So our founders considered the birth of Christ such a significant event that they dated our most important legal documents from the very first Christmas from the date of his birth. So I think you can make a case that Christmas itself is in the Constitution. You know, and the founder said this is in the year of our Lord, first of all, Lord, so they are acknowledging that he is the master and proper Lord of the United States, and it's the year of our Lord. All the Founding Fathers say this individual is our Lord, and we're dating it from his birth date as our Lord and Master. So Christmas is in the Constitution, particularly absurd and ridiculous that acknowledging that fact would be denied in our hospitals. And there is Jeff Miller is from Florida. He is I forget his specific title. He's the chairman of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, and he has written a very strongly worded letter to General Shinseki saying, look, I want an explanation here. This kind of censorship is unconscionable. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. We need to have some accountability here. Representative Martha Roby down in Alabama, she is the representative of the 20-year-old girl that prepared those 100 goodie bags for not just her grandfather but other veterans, and was turned away by. She's outraged. She's going to follow up. So we have some representatives that are going to track this thing down, and there's going to be some accountability here.
That's wonderful. What can the average Christian do? I know they can go to the AFA.net, the ActionNet, and get some sign on there. But is there anything else we can do?
Well, I think it'd be a good thing to contact our representatives. You know, every American has one representative, one and only one. We've got 2 senators, but we only have one representative. And I would encourage folks to contact their representative and find out if they're aware of what's happened in the VA hospitals. And if they're not, make them aware of some of this information and then press them to hold the VA accountable. You know, one of the things that's very clear in the Constitution is that it's the responsibility of Congress to write the rules for the military. That's not the responsibility of the president. He doesn't write the rules that govern the military. That's specifically designated as the responsibility of Congress in our Constitution. And so members of Congress, your representative, can do something about this. They can support what Representative Miller has done. They can use their influence as a lawmaker invested with constitutional authority to set the rules for the military and follow through on this. And trust me, Perry, these representatives, they count. They count phone calls, they count emails, and it doesn't take, the threshold of the number of phone calls that has to be reached before they pay attention is not that high. Yeah. So they get a dozen, they get 2 dozen, they get 3 dozen phone calls on the same topic. Their constituents, the people that vote for them, that are going to have the opportunity to send them back to Washington in November or keep them home, they're going to.
Oh, did we lose him? All right, we'll see if we can reconnect with him. Bryan Fischer with us today, Director of Issues Analysis for American Family Association. Let me encourage you, what he is talking about there, you can go to the AFA website. It's afa.net. And by the way, it is a terrific resource. Their website has a lot of information on it, and they have the action alerts, which you may want to subscribe to, and you can get there. And you can also go there and get the latest that they have as it relates to the Veterans Affairs being censored for their Christmas expressions there at the patients there at the VA hospitals across the country. A sad, sad thing to see and to witness. And I just want to say to Bryan and all the people there at American Family Association, thank you for your hard work and what you folks do. It is absolutely wonderful, and he stays on top. I'm sorry we lost connection with him. That's sometimes the risk when you're Skyping people in. But again, afa.net is the website to go to be a part of or to get the information, and then maybe even sign some of the petitions. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back on Focus Today.